This is going to save you a lot of time and money, not to forget pain, misery, and empty wallets. We talk a lot about how modern women reveal their true nature later on in relationships when the guy has invested much of his time, energy, and resources into her. But what if I could tell you guys that there are some serious red flags that can tell you everything you need to know about the reality of a woman you're thinking of investing your time in? With these 7 biggest red flags, you can figure out where your relationship will be headed in a couple of months or even in a year. Let's begin. Number 1, she's got double standards. When the double standards start to feel like they're taking over your day, it's time to let go. What are double standards? Simply, they are standards that she holds you accountable for, but not herself. If you're not supposed to do something, but it's totally okay for her to do exactly that in the exact same circumstances, that's a double standard. And you know what's even worse? When a woman doesn't even recognize that she's using a double standard against you and ends up totally ignoring it, or saying that it's not a double standard, essentially going into the gaslighting zone. So she doesn't talk about her previous relationships, right? I can tell you why. It's because those are backup leads in case things don't work out with you, or if you think everything with her is going great. But when things have been going great, it's become boring for her. She's not someone who really thought through the whole long-term relationship thing anyway. And now that the routine is monotonous and the intimacy is regular between you two, there's nothing exciting for her to do. So, she starts thinking about her previous partners, which, by the way, according to her, is totally okay to do, but you can't interact with your previous partners. See, that's a real-life double standard right there. But as the friendship has developed, she has become more of these to the previous men who may have broken up their relationship. These are the guys who have made a lasting impression on her. She constantly yearns for these men. You'll notice that these backburner men or leads would cause havoc if it were the other way around and you were interacting with your previous partners. It would cause mayhem in your woman's mind and send her into a tailspin. She can communicate with Tim, John, and any of the 45 males on her Snapchat list, but you don't need to worry about any of them since this is something that she'll continue to do. But if you end up losing interest in her, and you start telling her that it's not okay for her to flirt with multiple guys, then you're suddenly controlling her and acting like a dominating man. This is what double standards are. Watch out for these since they eventually represent a woman who believes in this so-called equality that actually favors her wishes and totally undermines yours. Now, if you see a woman who has double standards, you should move on. It doesn't matter how attractive she is, since she didn't necessarily have a long-term plan or strategy to make this a productive use of her time. All it demonstrates is that she was willing to give it up to another man and raised her notch count. Number 2, she feels entitled to everything. Entitlement results from the expectations placed on you or the relationship without any effort on their part. Women will sometimes keep a guy in their lives for 2 or 3 years. And right in the middle of it, they keep bringing up marriage, but they never actually present themselves as married women. If any of you are now dating a woman, I want you to ask her directly, what does it mean to you to be a wife? It's not just a title. You don't merely get to change your last name. What exactly does it mean to you? What attributes should a wife have according to you? If your woman can't give you an honest answer here, then she is a woman who views marriage as a formality, simply because of the time commitment she has made. That is not how marriage works. That is not how relationships work. The titles of husband and wife aren't just titles. They're roles that have to be earned for someone to be able to be a husband or a wife. The next presumption is that she should just be taken care of, with no real return for the guy. You'll even observe that her desires develop more rapidly the less she is cared for. She actually removes her intimacy, her affection, and her compassion for the man the more she is taken care of. But these women are going to say, well, if I was married, I would do that. But it's wrong. Because in the beginning, it was not like that. If you move this to the bottom, it's going to say all freedom with no repercussions. Why does this matter? If she acts as though she can do whatever she wants with complete freedom and without consequence, then it means there are no boundaries for her. If you create a boundary, you won't be stigmatized as insecure. In fact, you are trying to take the lead, which is a positive thing. This is vital for healthy male-to-female interactions. Number 3. She's a believer of toxic equality. She believes in complete equality between men and women. She believes that all men and women were created equals. She believes that a man can do all the things women do, and women can do everything a man does. Yet, she will only talk about equal pay when it comes to positions of power, influence, and authority. She won't talk about equality when it comes to staffing coal miners or bricklayers. She won't talk about equality when it comes to the number of men who work as railroad workers, risking their lives to provide for their families. Ladies, get this thing straight. We are not equals. There are no equal male and female members of any species on the earth. There is a reason why we are unique. I won't attempt to negotiate between your role and mine. If you enter this conversation asserting that we are equal, we are immediately at odds because, in my perspective, you are not a woman. You are a female. I don't go out with females. I go out with women. For the sake of the guys out there trying to hear me, I'm sorry, but if you want a woman that you can compete with, you're basically giving up your masculinity. Equality isn't what it's made out to be. Women typically desire equality when it helps them and want to be treated like women when it is convenient. Given that I'm trying to do what I'm doing, I don't have time for all the back and forth. She will take my lead and follow. Number 4. She's not intimate with you. At the beginning of the relationship, there was a spark, there was excitement, there was intensity, passion, and desire between you and your partner. But eventually, the desire started to decrease to a point where there was no intimacy between you two, even if you tried it. This is the point where you need to leave. If you have tried to rekindle the lost intimacy between you and your partner, and it hasn't worked, believe me, it will never work. Also, the more docile a male partner gets over time, the less intimacy he gets from the woman. But the more he rocks the boat and adds the bad boy attitude and manner to his personality, the higher the emotional toxicity rises and the faster she wants intimacy. And frequently, this causes the brain of that man to receive contradictory or conflicting information. But if she uses it as a reward, the next diminished intimate intent won't result in something until he accepts this. Relationship red flags are cautionary indicators that you and your partner may have harmful patterns or behaviors. Often, particularly in new relationships, lust and love can cloud your judgment and make it challenging to spot warning signs. Aggression and abusive behavior may be better recognized warning signs. Some relationship red flags, meanwhile, are simple to overlook. Narcissism, manipulation, and gaslighting are some toxic behaviors that can go unnoticed. However, these 3 red flags are telltale signs of a relationship that has turned into dust, and there is nothing to salvage. The best course of action for dealing with relationship red flags is to act swiftly, openly, and fairly. Open a direct line of communication with your partner, share your worries, and allow them to do the same. Number 5. She's bad with finances. Another huge red flag is a woman in her late 20s or early 30s who has absolutely no money saved. You will be her safety net if she doesn't have a financial strategy. In order to collect alimony and child support, I will do whatever is necessary to marry you or essentially become pregnant. They urgently require help. So keep in mind that financially strapped women in their late 20s and early 30s are aware that finding a guy to support them is their last chance at living comfortably. They need a guy for money if, by the time they are in their early to mid-30s, they haven't achieved success on their own. Never be that person. But if they have wealthy parents and a large fortune, I frequently discover that they are basically prepared to treat you horribly when they first meet you because they don't really need you to essentially fall in love with them. No matter how wealthy she is or how well off her parents are, if she treats you rudely immediately away, leave as soon as you can. It doesn't matter how hot she is. Number 6. She's erratic and wants you too soon. It's also a warning sign if a lady demands intimacy too soon. She rides the carousel plainly, and if she wants it before you do, either she doesn't value herself or she's attempting to emotionally lock you in as soon as possible. But considering how frequently she has done it in the past, is willing to let someone she hardly knows access her body. Women are like roller coasters or jets. The trip is brief, and there is always a line where you have to wait. There are so many warning signs that I could practically spend the entire day listing them for you. However, the more dates you go on, the more of these warning signs you'll see in the future, until you begin to believe that most women are liars and cheaters. They all employ the same methods. However, before getting hitched, men and women dated very few individuals. Therefore, most men, like myself, had no idea how women operated. So when a guy eventually receives divorce papers, he is, of course, utterly astonished. Males can only love or comprehend women. They cannot be both, as men have no prior knowledge of women. Number 7. She's got a long history of failed relationships. Last but not least, if she's an 8 or 9, and she still has a history of failed partnerships, you know there's something not right. Never have I seen a woman who is honest about her former relationships and says, "You know what? I messed it up. I cheated on him. I wounded him. And I did this," and so on. Every ex has some flaw, whether they are in high school, college, or later in life. Every guy they have dated along the road has always been flawed in some way, or wrong in some way, or cheated on her, or just didn't get her. So, guys, take a step back and think what the most common denominator was in her relationships that failed. It's her. And she'll never admit that. She'll keep telling the world that it was the guy. And the next guy will be you if there is always something wrong with everyone, and it is not her. Avoid these women at all costs because they only know how to end relationships. She only knows how to be in unhappy relationships. You can't attempt to fix her. That's a trap. No, you can't rush in to save her. Save yourself and avoid her right now. Once you are aware of these red flags, you can no longer fail to see them. So, at your own risk, memorize these red flags. Know them and remember them. And beware of the women they're talking about, because these red flags can save you a lot of trouble. Thanks for watching Man Reacts. Like, subscribe, and comment to let us know what you think.